What is up, everybody? It's time to talk Super Bowl. That's right, Super Bowl 55 is finally here. And of course, it's not a Super Bowl without some bets. We're going to talk about some of the best prop bets to possibly invest in, talk about the over under, who's the favorite, at least my favorite for this game, and some of the bets you want to look out for on the big day. All right, let's get right into it, and let's start with, well, who's going to win this game? And the line right now is really close. It's -3, of course, in favor of the Chiefs, the defending champions. And you might think with such a close margin here that it's basically pick them like who you got in this game, right? If you think that Tampa Bay is going to pull it out, obviously, or if you think Kansas City is going to win, you take it. But the margin actually here with just 3 points, it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, these numbers are picked for a reason. So the Chiefs, despite their amazing record, 14-2 this year, out of those victories, 5 times they won by 3 points or less. And of course, one of those games was against Tampa Bay earlier this year when they won 27-24. And every time they played a team from that division for whatever reason, Atlanta, Carolina, the AFC South gave them trouble. Although they did come out victorious, it was also by those narrow margin, 3 points, 2 points. So this could very well come back to bite you. If you pick Kansas City, they still could only cover by 3 or 2 points, and therefore you don't win this bet. So if you got Tampa Bay, which as of right now, well, got the home field advantage. I don't know how much that means this year without all the crowd like usual, but I'm actually going to go with Tampa Bay because I think that it's going to be a close game. I do think Tampa has a realistic chance to win. You can't bet against Tom Brady, okay? I don't care if a different team, how old he is, it doesn't matter. It's hard to put up money straight up against him, and this team actually might be looking for payback from earlier this season. Kansas City, of course, favorite for a reason, but I'm going to go with Tampa Bay on this one just because I think it's going to be a close game either way. All right, let's talk about the over-under here. 56.5. If that looks high, it's because it is. As of right now, it's the third highest in Super Bowl history. So what happens when you have such a huge margin? We've had a few times where the over-under's been well over 50. Well, it's pretty much half and half. Half the time it goes over, half the time it goes under. So this in and of itself doesn't really tell us much, but it does say that, well, a lot of times when we expect a high-scoring game, it doesn't happen. It very well could, but again, if you look at what happened between these two teams earlier in the season, they didn't reach 56 points, right? It was just 51. So is it going to happen this time? Not necessarily. A lot of times the Super Bowl doesn't wind up being as high scoring as we think it's going to be. You know, a lot of times these teams that are expected to explode on offense, they don't do it, and it takes a while before things even get going, which is going to bring us to one of our next props. The first offensive play, though, what's going to happen here? Is it going to be a run play or is it pass play? This is a really simple one. Okay, so you think, well, this is a 50-50 chance. Of course it's not. 24 out of the 37 times that these teams ran their first play from scrimmage, it was a run play. Okay, 65%. So even though you think these are passing offenses, you think about Mahomes and Brady, all right, these, you know, the highest scoring potential, the first play of the game is more likely to be a running play, and a lot of people are going to expect it to go the other way. Again, all of these lines and these figures, it depends on where you're going to go, if it's DraftKings or if you're going to go through Vegas, whatever it is. But the smart money here is going to be on a run play. All right, so speaking of what's going to happen early in this game, is it going to be a high-scoring affair? Is it going to kick off with a lot of offense? Well, historically, the data says probably not. Is there going to be a touchdown in the first 5 minutes? Again, a lot of people are tempted to say that Chiefs offense, they can score anytime. This is true. Tampa Bay might be motivated to go down, put one up early. I don't think it's going to happen. So between the two teams, right, both the Chiefs and the Bucs this season, out of 81 chances to have an offensive drive in the first 5 minutes, only 25 times did they wind up scoring a touchdown out of those 81 times. That's 31%. That's not a very good rate. But let's talk about the Super Bowl itself. Again, a lot of times we expect a lot more offense than there is. Just out of the last several Super Bowls, do you know the last time that there was an offensive touchdown scored in the first 5 minutes? 2013. Baltimore, of all teams, it was the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Flacco, too. I think it was Anquan Bolden. So this a lot of times just doesn't happen. These teams kind of start out feeling each other out. Nobody wants to make a mistake. Nobody's being super aggressive on offense, so don't necessarily expect it. And you know what? Out of 4 of these last 7 Super Bowls since that Ravens touchdown, There wasn't even a touchdown at all in the first quarter. No touchdowns, just field goals or nothing a couple of times. And only one of those, 3 times, there was a touchdown. It wasn't even an offensive touchdown. It was a defensive touchdown. So 5 of the last 7 Super Bowls, there wasn't an offensive touchdown the entire quarter. So think about that. All right, now let's get into some of the player props you want to look at. Of course, Mahomes is going to be in the spotlight here. How is he going to perform? Did pretty well last year, but he did throw 2 interceptions compared to the 2 touchdowns. Wasn't his best game, and that's despite coming through the whole season with a 1% interception rate. Well, guess what? This year, 2020, also 1% interception rate. That was the lowest in the league. But here's the thing, talking about the playoffs. He did get picked off twice in the Super Bowl last year, but he has none so far in the playoffs this year against 2 pretty good teams with defenses like Cleveland and Buffalo. What is he going to do this year? Is he going to throw a pick? I don't think so. If you look at the way Tampa Bay's secondaries performed, not too well. All right, they're not nearly as good as they looked in the beginning of the year. They're also not quite as bad as they were in the middle of the year. Somewhere in between, they've kind of settled in to be kind of a mediocre pass defense, but they are prone to giving up big plays. But the question is, can they pick him off? Will they pick him off? I'm going to go with no on this one, just because I do think that in general, the Chiefs are going to be efficient with their passing plays. I feel like guys like Travis KELCE, obviously, Tyreek Hill can have big games here. Mahomes isn't going to need to force the ball, right? This is a team that makes its living on defense, Tampa Bay, stopping the run. That's not going to be what the Chiefs are going to be trying to accomplish here. They'll be able to pass, I think, pretty easily. So Mahomes, no INT is what I'm going with. Now, if the Chiefs are going to be really effective passing the ball, it stands to reason Tyreek Hill going to have a big game. He's going to be one of the favorites to be MVP possibly. So depending on where you go, I've seen this at 92.5, right, on DraftKings with Tyreek Hill's receiving yards. Our friends at Monkey Knife Fight have all sorts of action on this game, of course. And on there, you see it's 99.5. So a little tighter here. Is he going to go for a 100-yard game? Yes or no? Well, I'm going to go with the over here. Going to say yes, not just because obviously he's a great receiver, and I just talked about Tampa Bay's deficiencies in the secondary. Well, here's the thing. Tyreek Hill this season averaged 85 yards per game. All right, so you think, well, that's not nearly close enough to make me want to get in on 92, much less 99, okay, in the Super Bowl. But look at the playoffs. Again, what's he done when it's mattered most? 112 yards versus Cleveland, 172 versus Buffalo. And we talked about how efficient Mahomes has been. All right, the Bucs, again, that secondary, not the best. And they have averaged about 200 passing yards per game allowed just to wide receivers in the playoffs. These past 3 playoff games, we're talking about 200 yards. That's just the receivers. Forget KELCE and his involvement. Who's going to be the receiver who's going to lead the way for Kansas City? All right, it's by far and away going to be Hill. Watkins, I have no interest in here. Robinson, I don't know if he's going to play. Hardman, no. Hill is clearly going to lead the way. So even if they don't get close to the 200, I feel like there's a really good chance Hill is going to get this number. So I'm going in on this. All right, now we have to talk about Tom Brady again. This is all about Tampa. And we could talk about the passing yards all day, but I'm a little more interested in this. What about rushing? Is he going to get in the end zone on the ground? And this is a pretty straight up yes or no one. Well, not known for his rushing prowess. I think a lot of people will shy away from this, but he did have 3 rushing touchdowns during the regular season. Not a whole lot, but 2 in the playoffs. And you know what? Think about when it counts the most, when they're there in the red zone near the goal line. Are they going to trust Leonard Fournette, who's been pretty good lately, but still some major trust issues there? Ronald Jones, of course, been hurt lately, came back and did nothing against Green Bay. Are they going to trust him with the ball near the goal line, or is Tom just going to take it himself, which he's prone to do? You know what? I'm going to go with yes. Take the over on this. I'm going to say yes. Tom Brady does run in for a touchdown. And again, a little bit of risk here for obvious reasons, but this is a competitor. He wants to win. He's going to keep the ball in his own hands, call his own name possibly, and I think that this is a pretty smart bet depending on what the line is. Back to Kansas City here. Now, what about their running game? Well, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is supposed to be the feature back. Of course, been hurt since late in the season. Should be back and healthy for this game. Didn't look too great the last time he played. I think it was about 7 yards he got on the ground. Darrell Williams has looked surprisingly good, running for 72 yards in a playoff game. Well, who's going to lead the way now? You don't have to pick that, but let's talk about some of these numbers here. Darrell Williams now talking about over under 36.5 rushing yards, just rushing yards. That seems really low for a guy who's been their lead back. But again, you got Edwards-Helaire coming back. Le'Veon Bell might actually play this game. If he's going to touch the ball, who knows? But then you got those two backs factored in. And then let's not forget the most important part. Tampa Bay did have the #1 rushing defense in terms of limiting fantasy points per game to running backs this season. #1. This is a defense that only allowed 61 rush yards per game throughout the year. Okay, Darrell Williams is a guy that only went over this number, this 36 number, this magic number, only did it once when Edwards-Helaire was actually on the field during the season. So, #1, he doesn't have history on his side. He's not a primary ball carrier by any means. #2, with the competition here, and of course in this big game, are they going to even lean on the ground game much at all is the question, because again, with that stout run defense and kind of generous pass defense, it makes sense that the Chiefs are going to design a lot more pass plays, maybe some end arounds, maybe some trickery here. So I don't think that it's smart to bet on Williams, even though it's tempting with this kind of low-hanging fruit of the 36 number, and he's been the guy lately. I would stay away from this. I'm going to go the under on the 36.5. And then our final bet, of course, you got to bet on the MVP here. You don't just take the obvious bet here with a quarterback. Now, I know that most of the time it is a QB, but Mahomes, Brady, as likely as there is Kansas, you're not going to win anything for there. There's no purpose making this bet. So you've got to go for somebody who is kind of a longer shot, but not a super long shot. You don't need to go for a defensive player, or do you? Well, think about this. Out of the past 20 Super Bowls, 8 times it's been a non-quarterback to get the MVP. 4 of those have been a wide receiver, and 4 of those have been a defensive player. I can't think of an individual defensive player on either side that I would jump up and say worth the money. You know, you got Devin White on Tampa Bay, but still, do you really see him being such a factor to win this game for them? I wouldn't go for that. So defensive players, a long shot. Tyreek Hill, I mentioned earlier, is a smart bet, but I'm going to go with KELCE. KELCE has been the man, arguably was the fantasy MVP this season. For a lot of teams, he was clear out most valuable player. So in terms of tight end defense here, the Bucs actually allowed the 9th most fantasy points to tight ends throughout the season. So I don't think they're going to put up a lot of resistance. You know, KELCE is going to see a ton of targets. He's been targeted double digits almost every time since the second half started. KELCE has scored a touchdown in 6 straight games. And you know when the last time he was held under 7 receptions in a game was? Week 7. Okay, that's just the floor for him. All right, 800-yard games this season. There's a great chance that he has a monster game. Between him and Hill, I know it's close, but I've seen KELCE's odds at 10-1, a little bit longer than Hill. I've seen it 8-1. So I think KELCE is the smart bet here. You don't have to lay down a lot to get something back. Going to the quarterback, too obvious. There's just not enough reward here. So I'm going to go with KELCE as my Super Bowl MVP pick. All right, guys, that's just a little taste of the action here. If you want some more detailed advice on betting or props for this Super Bowl, matchups, what have you, rankings even, that's right, you're still doing rankings, check out rotoballer.com. We have you covered for the big game. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.